Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a deck discussion video on the premium deck I brought for Bushiroad Spring Fest Sydney, and that is Neo Nectar. Katrina is probably one of the best decks, if not the best deck in premium at the moment. And I just got off a plane, straight onto the camera, literally back home 30 minutes ago, and let's just talk about it. There's just so much to talk about, and you know, let's run through the deck, the day, and pretty much how everything went throughout the whole event. So before I start this video, I've got a few shout outs to make. Obviously, big shout out to Justin, Mao, and Yang. Both of my teammates, pretty much, we all carried each other. Well, they carried each other. I just kind of did my own thing. Absolutely awesome teammates. I went 9-0 with this deck, so undefeated. Didn't drop a game, which was pretty crazy to me. The last time I did this was back in 2022, and that was in standard playing Magnolia Elder. So yeah, it's really cool to, you know, play another green deck and get undefeated again. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But big shout outs to them. Justin was on Gurgit and Yang was on Eva with the new promo. So I think those picks were pretty good picks for our team. So, you know, again, playing comfort decks and playing decks that they know. Big shout outs to them. Champion team, right? Few other shoutouts. So shout out to Yuan and Louis. So earlier on this season, I didn't actually really know too much about how this deck kind of operated. Kind of talked to them after BSF Melbourne when I kind of flunked. And yeah, they gave me a lot of good tips and kind of adopted them for BSF Malaysia. Obviously didn't do well to there. And then went to Springfest Indonesia, but I didn't play premium there. And then here we are, you know. We're here, we got a blue OT, you know, very cool blue OT right here. And yeah, so big shout outs to them. Also to Wirab and Galini. Throughout the day, I kind of talked to them and just kind of get some tips on how things operated. There is one card in this deck that I guess Wirab used in his deck, and that is Inez, and that actually helped me in one of the matchups, but we can talk more about that. And obviously a big shout out to a few people who I've borrowed cards from. So Carmelo here in Perth, he pretty much lent me the Neo Nectar deck as well as the Gurgit deck that Justin played. Kevin Huynh, who lent me the Megaloma, and Yang for, I guess, lending from his friend the Maiden of Stampurny and the Horticulture Elf. So yeah, with all shoutouts done and dusted, let's just get into this video. There's a lot to talk about and just kind of go through how things have panned out the way it has. So first off, let's start with the starter. It's a V starter, nothing too crazy. Get a quick shield, draw one, don't play any other starter, well, other than, you know, the V starter. So that's that. Looking at the grade 3s, so I play 4 Maiden of Stampurny, 3 G Usher, so this is the one without the imaginary gift, and then 2 in Logolf and 1 Inez. So the Inez that I was talking about just earlier in the video, this actually came up pretty big time for one of my matches. So yeah, just kind of explaining the roles of these cards. Stampurny is pretty much your primary on-ride target, especially if you're going second. You're going second, your opponent's going to ride up, get the history stride, and then pretty much generate 2 markers, right? So when you ride this, you get 2 plant tokens, you stride into Katrina, Katrina only flips 1, then you get 3, right? I found that if I rode anything else, I'd be kind of struggling because I don't have the tokens in the early game. And it's also good in deck as a free card to be able to generate a token, which works well with Katrina. So yeah, Sibyllus, and if you are on this for some reason and you can't stride, in the very, very late game, then it's pretty much Katrina Light, sack, call plant tokens, everything gains 10, and you have the ability of Cyclone as well. So that's Maiden of Stampurny. Usher is pretty straightforward. It's a card that you can, I guess, use to stride into your history collection stride, get 2 force markers, and then kind of scale from there. Otherwise, the purpose of this card is just there for that, right? The bottom 2 cards are probably the most important cards, I think. I'll tell you a funny story about Inez in a sec, but let's talk about it in Logolf. And Logolf is pretty much the MVP into a lot of meta-related matchups at the moment. So if you guys are following premium, Crash Shunui is a big deck. And this kind of solves the problem. Another big deck is Grand Blue. And when they get to Bartolomeo, you literally can't guard. So why is this so important? Is because you can recycle grade 3 heals from your drop zone back into your hand as long as you're on a stride. So Katrina will search this out. You soul blast 1, you grab a heal back from your drop zone and add it to your hand, which means that you have access to a G Guardian, right? There were some plays over the weekend where I had to force myself to get a heal from deck, overplace the heal, and then use this to get the heal back. But yeah, that was like one of the things that I had to do on the weekend because it was super desperation mode and I needed a way to like recycle stuff. So talking about Inez, so this is a pretty funny story. I brought Inez with me. I was thinking of playing Weirab's list and I didn't like it. So I switched to the French build and I was missing V Usher and I'm like, oh, I didn't bring V Usher in my toolbox. Can I like ask somebody? So I asked Mark, and Mark, because Tri-Regulation is day 2 on the same time as Weiss, well, same day as Weiss. Weiss starts later, so he's not going to be at the venue till later. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, count Mark out. Who else am I going to get this V Usher from? So Brandon, big shout out to him as well. He asked Kevin to give me the Megaloma. So he asked Kevin and he's like, oh, okay, do you have a V Usher? And he said no. So I'm like, well, there's only one other card that, you know, I have at the moment that I guess I can use is Inez. So funnily enough, this card actually was pretty impactful the whole day. So the purpose of this card is that it's a fat rearguard, right? So if you're calling off Katrina, you're calling 5. Let's just say you're calling 4. Immediately it's a 28k attacker because you're calling 3 other units, right? So 28 plus a token is like, base 20 is like 48, right? And then triggers is like, you know, 58, 68, yeah? Obviously you call 3. Let's just say, like, you know, you call a bunch of token generators and then those token generators turn into tokens. Then you're actually adding plus 10k to this. So this side is actually insanely big, right? There was one game where like, I think this hit for like 78k with crit. And yeah, like it forces so much guard out of your opponent's hand. But there was one match where I stayed on Darvis, well, against Darvis, I stayed on this purposely, purely because I can get a bigger base on my opponent's turn using Rain Breath Dragon. So I can call like Maiden of Flower Carpet or any of my token generators. So you pretty much place 1 because of its card ability, right? So Rain Breath calls by card ability, this gains +5, and then the token generates, then it gains +5 again, so it's a 23k base. So yeah, it was actually pretty important. It was like an emergency button if like things went wrong. So yeah, like this really helped. And you know, just being a 5th copy of a gift marker generator is really good too. But yeah, I don't know if this I'd call the MVP because like in Logolf is pretty much the MVP of the deck, kind of. But yeah, like Inez was pretty insane for like when it came up. So yeah, that's that. And to be honest, like if I were to run V Usher, I probably would. I would probably take out the Inez, but in hindsight, you know, yeah, it works pretty well. Works pretty well. Okay, so looking at the grade 2s, so I play 4 Anelma, probably one of the most important grade 2s in the deck, along with Horticulture and then 2 Sylvia. So what are the roles of these cards? So Anelma, it's pretty stupid with Maiden of Flower Carpet. So if you ride this first, you get a token, and then you use Anelma. Anelma Soul Blast this grade 1 to generate another token. So that means you have 2 tokens on your grade 2 turn. And this procs from the drop zone by retiring 2 plant tokens and adding it to hand. So you're essentially +2ing, which is pretty crazy, right? So Nelma would be +1, Flower Carpet refunds itself, it gets +1, so you essentially wipe your board of plant tokens and you get like a free draw 1 and a free 10k shield, right? Horticulture is there as an attack extender, being able to abuse a Force 2 or Force 1 marker on one side is pretty ridiculous. I play 2 Sylvia because sometimes I find that in the early game I place this, especially on Arborea, where I generate a token and then Arborea attacks, Arborea hits, I need to clone something. So I couldn't justify myself running only one of this. 2 means I have another target to be able to clone, right? So that's the grade 2s. Now looking at the grade 1s, so I play 3 Lilgas, so the Bloom PG, and 1 Elementaria, 4 Flower Carpet, 4 Honolly, and 1 Pad Mini. So this PG is absolutely busted, especially in the context of Neo Nectar. So pretty much if you multi-call this, its skill allows you to +1 and bounce all copies of the same card name back to hand. That's bonkers, right? You have a G-Guard that allows you to recycle 2 of these back to the bottom deck, so you're always having access to 2 PGs every single turn, which is actually busted, right? I still run the Sanctitude. There are matchups that Sanctitude is good, especially into Crest Nui. Crest Nui, because they're striding, Elementari becomes a free perfect guard just by ditching 1 card, especially if you get Sukumura-kan. Sukumura-kan will cut your hand to 4, and this is like a 1 card guard, which is really important. And which is why getting heals to G-Guard against Sukumura-kan is also important, because it's a 1 card guard, right? You're like pretty much guarding for like 30k shield, which is ridiculous, right? Maiden and Flower Carpet also is Shunui based, so there are times where in the early game you want to clear up your field because obviously your opponent's going to stride first into their history collection stride, especially if you're going second. You want to clear up your board so your opponent just doesn't dominate a unit on the board and you know, fish out like a 5k shield from your hand. So that's really important too. And Honolly, so this card was actually so useless the whole day because I played non-multi-attack decks, right? So I played Crest Nui, but like the Crest Nuis, I like crippled them too much too early and they didn't get multi-attacks. And even against like them, I never needed Honolly because they're only attacking max 5 times, and like dropping this for 1 CB1 or whatever, it just feels kind of bad, right? So it's just there literally for 10k shield. You could probably cut this for something else. Maybe 1 copy, but I wouldn't go under 3. I think 4 is pretty excessive, but I think 4 is needed for matchups that I wanted to see it in. So playing 4 means I see it more often, right? And then I'll play 1 Pad Mini. Pad Mini is pretty much a 4th copy of my G Usher. So whenever I draw this, then that means it's equivalent to having a G Usher in hand, just obviously with 5k shield essentially. So, you know, place this, you know, show your grade 3, search for Usher, and then you're pretty good, right? It's also Stride Fodder. Stride Fodder is always nice. So that's my 1s. And then my triggers, I play 4 heals, 2 of the D draws because they're 10k shield, 4 draw crits, pretty self-explanatory, 4 stride crits, 1 happy lucky, this is like a pineapple, right? Yeah, the pineapple, and then 1 blessed favor. Nothing too crazy. You definitely want to run 4 heal guards because you can fish them with Enlargulf. Your CC engine is like insane already with your 3G guards. You don't need CC. Your soul is pretty alright if you keep rewriting. If you put this into soul, it's pretty good. Yeah, this is just 10k shield. You wouldn't run any other draws other than draw PGs, but you're running Lilgas already. You're maxing out on the best crits in your deck, so you're playing the draw crits, your stride crits. This is just an extra crit. I find that playing 3 draw, 8 crit was too lackluster, especially because this deck already draws enough. I think substituting like defense for slight more offense was good, and sometimes this comes up, you know, you just chuck in soul and plus 10 to Vanguard, draw 1, and then you have like a soul field, right? Blessed Favor, still the best OT for this deck. Yeah, that's that. So that's the main deck pretty much all sorted. So we're gonna go through the G zone. So I play 3 Katrina, 2 Cyclone. This is pretty much a staple package for Neo Nectar. Katrina is a really strong stride, being able to call out cards that make plant tokens, and then this buffs units that do not have abilities, i.e. no continuous autos or act abilities, so which are your tokens, and then the more you have of this face up, then the bigger your tokens are, right? Self-explanatory. Then the Other strat is Arborea. So if you're going first, going into Usher, you obviously want to stride this straight up by ditching up to some of grade 3. Superior stride this, flip one face up, and then get 2 force. And those 2 forces actually scale insanely into the game because it means that you're riding 1 turn more than your opponent. So especially if you're playing force 1, then it scales. But I think the whole day I played force 2, which like really helped, right? Then the next few are like tech cards. So I play Megaloma, Inverno, and Lattice Lava. So all 3 of these are for the Mega Colony matchup. It's kind of stupid that I have to sacrifice 3 slots just for Gridora, and I didn't see Gridora the whole day, which is pretty funny. So this is the Megaloma that Kevin lent me. Funnily enough, all 3 of these cards stayed in my G-Zone, and I never used them, never flipped them. They were just there chilling, you know, by themselves, right? So in hindsight, I could have just gone with like a 3rd Cyclone. The 3rd Cyclone would have actually made a pretty big difference. So yeah, if your like meta is not super Gridora heavy, like you can swap probably this for a Cyclone. But I think like this is good into Chaos. This is also good into Gridora. Well, it is good into Gridora, but like it's also good into DP. If you are able to search for a 1, you can search for your Elementaria Sanctitude, which means that you can survive against Unibird or you know, the big one-shot guard break thing, Linker. Megaloma is an emergency button if you're about to die. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So those 3 pretty much slots for a bad matchup in this deck, or for this deck. So yeah, I don't know if I should cater for that, but I mean, in hindsight, you know, trying to prepare for everything anyways. So next thing, Harmonics, yeah, you kind of have to have this, gives you Guardian Shield, helps you in the Chaos matchup sometimes, but other than that, yeah, it's just kind of there, right? Then your G-Guards, so I play 3 Robotina and 2 Rain Breath. Double Rain Breath was actually really insane against one of my matchups, and that was Vanquisher. This card allowed me to deny 3 draws, I think it was. But we'll talk about that in the tournament report section. So Robotina is your best G-Guard, pretty much returning 2 cards of the same name from your drop zone to the bottom of deck, and you countercharge 1 and it gains plus 15, so 30k shield. Just straight up, like your Vanguard becomes 43, and that's why like heals are important against Shunui, right? Rain Breath Dragon, sometimes you can just like play this in the Shunui matchup, overplay the unit that gets dominated off Arena, and then stop an attack. So that's that. Sometimes you can float in a Honolly that just stops your opponent's like 5th attack because they don't have like CB2 or something. So yeah, double Rain Breath is actually really, really good. So I guess let's talk about the day and kind of how everything went. So first round I played against Shunui. This particular player used the Ride Fixer, tried to dig for the Crest Grade 1 and couldn't find it, rode a Honolly, and yeah, the game just played as normal. Didn't have any power scaling off the Crest Grade 1, so couldn't really do much. Second round was against Vanquisher, and that's why the double Rain Breath came up. So there was a point where I think he strode into Voltage, and he had a Zuitan and double Jaggy shot. He attacked with Zuitan first. I didn't have a front row, so what I did was I dropped a Rain Breath, called a Flower Carpet, which had resist, and then I caught a token, right? That means that it stops the Jaggy shot from drawing because it needs to have an empty front row, right? So it stopped one of the Jaggy shots. Then the Jaggy shot, the first Jaggy shot decided to attack my Flower Carpet. And then I dropped another Rain Breath to call a Horticulture into the front row, which also had resist, so you couldn't bind it, right? So I pretty much stopped 3 draws just straight up, and that pretty much won me the game. Like, he didn't have much cards to be able to guard through my next turn, and yeah, that was pretty much it. The third game was against Shunui. This one was a bit weird. So I think it was like second turn or third turn into striding. I think he strode into the Premium Collection stride, the newest one where like you call 3 from the bin. So he strode into I think he strode into that and then dominated one of my units and attacked. And my hand was like, okay, well, I have to take one. And I took a defensive OT, which gave my Vanguard 100 million or whatever. And then he attacks with his Vanguard, and I said no guard. And then he triggers Drag Vader, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I guess our OT is like cancelled out for that attack. And then I normal guarded the middle column because that was the only one that mattered. And I pretty much played normally for the rest of the game. That's pretty much how it is, right? This would have been the 4th round. So that was after lunch break. So 4th round, opponent went first. He got to turn 3 and didn't have an Obero. So we grade 2 gamed. I grade 2 game for like, I think a turn. And his board was kind of weak. So then I decided to ride up into Maiden Stampione. And then obviously clear my board with Flower Carpet. And then he rode Zunky with 3 cards left in hand, discarded 2 to stride, so grade 2 and grade 1, into the Mugen Lord that copies the stride. Oh, sorry. It wasn't Peony. So I rode into Asha. Asha used Flower Carpet to clear up my board. So I went 1 column Vanguard, called Flower Carpet into like and then over it. So I cleared that column, didn't have anything to dominate. So he had 2 Arborias. I had 2 Arborias face up. He went to Mugen Lord, dominated those 2, attack with Vanguard. Start of turn, he only had like 4 cards in hand. And yeah, just played normally and won that game. So then round 5 was Thavis, and big shout out to the player on past turn Vanguard's team who played Thavis. That was probably one of the best games I had during the whole day. It was neck and neck every single turn. He went first, went into Tidal Ball, did his own thing, generated 2 XLs, happy days. I went to Katrina, farmed some PGs. Funnily enough, I didn't see a single heal all the way till the end of the game. So at one point, I had to farm with Anelma and force grab my heal because I needed a way to recycle my PGs. So I ended up calling like a heal, double Anelma, and Largolf, which then Anelma replaces the heal, then Largolf gets the heal back to hand, and then I get another token over the Largolf so that I get 5 attacks. And then at that point, he went into double Alexandros with 2 Tidal Assaults, the G Tidal Assault on XLs. And at that point, I think it was like 8 face up in G-Zone or something, so like plus 40k to each of the Tidal Assaults, so they were hitting for 54 and 49. At this point, we were both on 4. I took a 5th damage, and that was a heal, so it was effective. Took a 5th damage again, it was a crit. And then which made the last 2 attacks like much easier to guard, even though I had pretty much sufficient guard to be able to guard through that. And then I used my 1 heal to recycle PGs. My opponent had 5 deck and had no way to kind of return stuff, so I used the 3rd Katrina, filtered through my deck of nothing but heals, crits, and OTs. I think I triggered like, I don't know, heal, crit or something. And then I healed from 5 to 3. And then on his turn, he had a total of 3 attacks. So he attacked 12 to my rear guard, Alexandros, and the Alexandros would have restood that other rear guard for like plus 45 with triple triggers. And then I shot a PG and then decked out. So that was that. So yeah, big shout out to him. Really sick game throughout the day. Then I played against Grand Blue, nothing too crazy, just another Columbard first. And then he rode Nightstorm, and that was pretty much the end of the game. Right. Then we made to top 8. Top 8 versus Shunui, one of the Queensland boys, Nick Moore. Turn 3, he didn't have Obero, so grade 2 gamed for a turn. He just for Zunky, then rode up, and we just played a normal game. Right. I think he went into double Rene. The first Rene took a Sanctitude and a Guardian Shield, so he didn't get any attacks. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Top 4 was an Overlord. This one's pretty funny. So he rode Stricken. I gave him 1 damage, and then I rode into Peony, force 2 on rearguard, and attack for 13. Stricken gains 5. So it's a 15k base. So I kept him at 1. So any triggers I would have dumped on the rearguard and then got my Flower Carpet back. And then he attacks with DOTX after doing all of his skills, and then healed from 1 to 0. So he couldn't restand another time. And then pretty much from there, it was just 3 Katrina strides, grabbed PGs every single stride and yeah, recycled, and that was pretty much the game. Then finals, that was a streamed game, pretty crazy. We grade 2 gamed each other all the way to the end. He needed a crit on Arborea and missed. He also checked Inez, so that was his last clone target. And then I went, he searched deck, I gave it to one of the judges to judge shuffle, and then he ended up shuffling into a crit and a 5th damage crit, a 5th damage draw crit, and a 6 damage heal. And then James went 2 to pass Vanguard, and I hit crit heal, and then that was pretty much it. So yeah, that was pretty much my tournament report. This deck is pretty insane. I'm very happy that, you know, testing finally paid off after, you know, flunking the first 2 premium events and, you know, finally doing well in this one. So really, really happy with my performance. Going 9-0 is, yeah, pretty insane to me. Last time, like I said, I did it was back in 2022. And you know, back here, back in lovely Perth and doing this deck profile, it's a blessing. So yeah, big shout out to you guys. Very cool weekend, super chill weekend. Had a lot of fun with the Sydney boys. But yeah, it was, you know, stellar. And then day 1, I was like running around playing standard for the first 2 hours. And then SVE started, jumped to SVE, and then like in the interim, I like jumped back to standard and played, and it was just like everywhere. But yeah, chaotic day 1, got 3rd in SVE, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, successful weekend. We got our OT, we got what we came for, right? So yeah, that's pretty much my deck discussion video for Katrina. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop it down in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below. What do you guys think of this deck? Were you guys at BSF Sydney? Were you guys, you know, looking to play this deck in the future? Obviously, the premium deck sets are coming out soon, so contact your local stores to get them. Katrina is actually in the set itself, so yeah, this Striders are pretty good. So make sure you get them. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.